We have crossed London at a breakneck speed. We could have knocked someone over, and naturally I had to pay the cabbie out of my own pocket.
Watson, stop complaining. We have to analyze the clues found at the bishop's house.
And we do that by using the work table, a mechanic that we have seen before. It's slightly different this time around. Is the word streamlined acceptable?
I have cut a small piece off the rope. That should be enough.
So what we do is select a piece of evidence, and we only have a limited amount of options up here. The pipette looks like it could be used, but it's not available, at least not right now. And if one thing doesn't work, you can just move on to another thing. You don't get penalised, I believe, for selecting the wrong object. But for the rope, we need these pincers.
A lot of fragments of black stone are wedged into this rope. Their colour seems unnatural, but they are too small for me to examine them. Black and damp earth. This rope is only worn on one side.
And that signifies that we are done with that particular piece of evidence. Very detailed instructions. Okay.
This fragment of stone is very smooth, and it seems to be of a peculiar quality. I shall have to strip it with one of my products.
And we strip it with acid.
This stone appears to be the same as those found within the rope's fibers. This stone is granite covered in black paint. The fragments found in the rope and this piece of granite come from the same place. There is something written on this scalpel. I should clean it. I can make out WCCH. What do the initials stand for? How many hospitals are there in the Whitechapel area, Watson?
If we count public dispensaries, enough to keep us busy for an entire month. Did this scalpel come from a hospital?
Yes, as the initials WCCH engraved upon it show us. We must think on how best to deal with this. We do not have the time to investigate every hospital in Whitechapel. Black and damp earth under the nail. Interesting. I must compare the samples of earth that I found. Tooth marks, rather deep ones, I'd say of incisors, and a canine. Fragments of skin, a phalanx. This finger wasn't cut off, it was ripped off.
Bite marks on this severed finger. I am afraid of the significance.
The thieves didn't get what they wanted. When they were faced with the bishop's refusal to cooperate, one of the gang shook his finger at him to indicate that he was responsible for his unfortunate state.
And the poor man, whose head was the only part of him not bound by ropes, bit the finger violently enough to sever it. An uncommonly savage act.
Watson, I am certain that when we have explained the reasons behind this sudden bestiality, we will have revealed a larger part of the mystery. I must compare the samples of earth that I found, and if I mixed this earth with another substance, now it must all be stirred.
I think that we used the scalpel for this. Okay.
The samples of earth taken from beneath the fingernail and from the ropes originate from the same place.
How do you know?
It took just a little water to analyze the consistency. The soil has retained its moisture, even though there hasn't been rain in London for over a week.
This soil could come from the bank of a river, or somewhere where the evaporation is slower. A mine, perhaps, or a trench.
The banks of the Thames are clay soil, unlike our samples, so we can rule that out. The nearest mines are 12 miles away, so I would rule that out also. I would therefore conclude your last theory to be nearer the mark.
A trench?
A pit. Watson, bring me your register of the London hospitals.
Studying the scalpel has given you an idea, then?
Indeed.
I'll get it. Read the paper, Holmes.
It should be... Is it this one?
Hospitals and dispensaries in London. I have found my book, Holmes.
Good. Put it on the work table, will you?
Here is the section showing Whitechapel. I made several notations on these pages during our investigation into the Ripper, which might prove useful. All we need to do is to find a hospital or a public dispensary near a location where pits have been dug and black granite has been used.
It's simplicity itself. I haven't finished my analysis.
Okay, so why did you stand up just to say that? When you need to sit right back down to do it again? This section here, you need to get this done correctly the first time around, with no mistakes, and without using all of these vials to achieve another honour. And what we need to do here, let's see if these are a bit more verbose. Doesn't really explain what you need to actually do. So, I'll have to explain it myself. We need to put this sample here into this empty container.
I must analyze the clues.
Right, and we do that by turning this, I believe, clockwise. And we need to release some liquid into this pool. And we'll see a reaction. And what we need to do is count how many of each of these we see in this basin. Like so. And I believe we saw one brown, two green and one blue. And we can actually get another sample out of this, but if we do that, we lose the achievement. So, for a mini puzzle that is not very descriptive, it screws you over a little bit.
Poison, and apparently very virulent. Poison. Discreet, efficient, and only detectable via a thorough post-mortem.
Have you been able to isolate the active components, Holmes?
Not with any certainty. This toxic substance surpasses my own knowledge in the field. It is without doubt the work of an expert chemist.
A chemist and a criminal.
As you say, please find my monograph on poisoners of the last 30 years.
The honour doesn't pop up straight away, it happens after this whole segment. I thought we had to hand the book to Holmes, but I think we just speak to him.
According to these documents, Hans Schielmann, known as the Rat Killer, was considered the greatest specialist in chemical poison in the world.
Is he at liberty?
Happily, no. He has been held in the high-security wing of London's Westgate prison for many years now.
Then he cannot be the one who concocted the poison.
Don't dismiss him too quickly, Watson. According to Scotland Yard, the man is exceptionally intelligent. For the greatest criminals, prison is but a mere obstacle. Let's plan a little visit to see Mr. Schielmann tomorrow. I haven't finished my analysis.
I believe the next part is the deduction board. Oh, yes. There's no doubt that he did fight his aggressors savagely, but from what I understand, the bishop was also, in the game's terms, mad. There was no blood on the glass, and we know that the flask contained poison, not blood. And that would be interesting, but not fitting with the theme of this game. And I'm sure they're not exactly sane as such.
Perfect. Well done, Watson. Our board is finished. It confirms that the bishop's murderers work for one person, who, amongst other things, possesses a very sophisticated poison. They therefore act for someone more educated than themselves.
And that honour is for completing our first deduction board. Okay, we can do that. The rope is only worn on one side. I doubt it would be manufactured being worn in any way. And if it was rotted, then it would not be worn on one side. So this is obviously the right answer. The damp earth brought in by the Bishop of Knightsbridge's killers, which we know is from a pit. And the fragments, it must come from some sort of monument painted black, as the fragment is part of the other pieces that we found. We know it wasn't used in water, and we know about the pit. We've already established that this stone is from near a monument, or from a monument, so the earth must be 2. A tombstone factory? Okay, that's a bit of a reach. The grave is the obvious choice.
Now I can make the right decision.
Well, it has to be this one. I guess a memorial is a statue of some sort, or could be, but no. The only grave on these 2 pages is the cemetery. Well, the only place where graves are.
The public dispensary number 4661. It's just opposite the Whitechapel Street Cemetery.
Yes, Watson. The murderer with the missing finger must work in the cemetery, or at least visit it. He could have taken a rope, one of the type they use to lower the coffins into the graves. The granite is minute particles of tombstone.
And he only had to cross the road to steal a scalpel from the dispensary opposite.
You remember Wiggins and his gang, the Baker Street irregulars?
Yes, the street urchins, whom you employ upon occasion, and Wiggins is their leader.
Yes. Well, I have hired their services again. I have instructed them to find out the address of the bishop's nephew.
I think he's here.
Hello, Mr. Holmes.
Wiggins, my young friend, have you found the information for which the good Dr. Watson is going to pay you?
Yes, Mr. Holmes, it was easy.
Very well, I understand. Here are a few pennies.
Thanks, Dr. Watson. The man you're looking for lives near Kensington.
Does he live alone?
Yes, but he rents a room for an old lady.
Did she see you?
No, Mr. Holmes, no one saw me.
Perfect. Watson, give our young friend another shilling as a reward for his discretion.
Here we go again. But of course... I'm falling asleep, Holmes. Aren't you tired?
No, I have an exceptional constitution. I can't remember ever having been fatigued by work. Idleness, on the other hand, exhausts me completely. Go to bed, Watson. The night will be short. We leave at dawn.
Wow, this is a real adventure. It's exciting. I like it better than made-up stories. I want to know what happens next. Keep reading. I'm going to.
Ah, I want to listen to.
My readers must excuse me if I do not describe in full detail here the terrible images which haunted me that night.
I had a sense that something extraordinary would take place, but I was scarcely prepared for the reality of it.